Welcome to the Education Corner, a podcast by Education Choices magazine.
Education Corner podcast are thrilled to welcome Mr. Graeme McCafferty, head at Rosemead Preparatory School and Nursery in Dulwich, which is now going to become part of the St Dunstan's College community of schools. To begin with, can you introduce yourself to us and tell us a little bit more about your personal background, really leading to your recent appointment as head at Rosemead Preparatory School?
Of course. I'm Graeme McCafferty. I am head at Rosemead Prep School. I am recent appointment, so I took over as head in February in 2023. I've had quite an interesting and varied career to date leading up to the appointment. So as you can probably tell from my accent, I am Scottish. So I started teacher training and did my NQT year in state schools in Glasgow. I worked in Scotland for the first 2 years of my career. I was then offered a permanent position in Scotland and panicked slightly because I didn't want to be in one school in one place for my entire career. So I applied to schools all over the world and I ended up getting a job offer in an international school in Dubai. So I worked in Dubai for 4 years. Various different roles, head of year for part of the time in Dubai. I was ICT coordinator and looking at tech integration through the school. And that kind of passion for tech and futuristic developments in education has followed me throughout my career. I met my wife while I was in Dubai. She's from Wandsworth. She's another head of a local independent school. Now, when we met out there, we decided after being in Dubai for a few years to travel a little bit further. So we moved to Shanghai and we taught in a through school all the way to year 13 as I was lead practitioner of teaching and learning from early years to year 13 over in Shanghai. And we did that for 1 year. We then decided for family logistics and we were looking at property and things to decide to move back to London, which is another new city for me. I joined Dulwich Prep London at that point, and again, various roles over my 5 years there, which were assistant head of law school at one point. I was director of studies through the whole school as well, so really focusing in on their curriculum and developing the curriculum at the Prep. I then moved over to Rosemead as director of studies, which quickly turned into deputy head academic. Been deputy head academic for about 2.5 years, which then led up to the exciting development in February of taking on the headship.
Wow, that's quite a story. Can you tell us a little bit about the points of entry and requirements for children and families considering applying to Rosemead Preparatory School?
Absolutely. So we market ourselves as a selective school. However, we are not necessarily an academically selective school. So when we bring children in for interview or assessment days, we are really trying to tease out what that child's like. And we're really trying to find out what type of learners they are, what they're interested in, and see if we can cater for their needs, whatever they may be. We've got two kind of traditional points of entry. So we've got a big intake at 4+, and actually kind of traditional reception, 4+ style assessment. So we've got stay and play sessions. We do a little bit of sorting and counting and phonics work. However, again, it's a very informal session with members of a leadership team on a pre-prep site, looking at observing the children and looking for various things. We do have a nursery as well. So we take children in from 2.5. So if somebody applies at 2.5, they are through Rosemead all the way. However, we do expand a little bit when we get to that 4+ area. So we've always got a little bit more intake. We are 2-form entry in year 1 and year 2. And then our next big entry point is a year 3 7+ entry, where the school expands from 2-form entry to 3-form entry for year 3, 4, 5 and 6. Again, we're a little bit different to the other schools in the area on how we do the assessment at 7+. We are not huge fans of the bring children in and bums on seats and do kind of a formal summative assessment process with them. We very much like having it as normal a day at Rosemead as we can. So usually when the children come in about 9 o'clock on the assessment days, they have a music lesson with our director of music for about 30 or 40 minutes. They then have an art lesson in our art specialist room with our head of art and design for 30 or 40 minutes. Meanwhile, the senior leadership team are taking notes and observing the children. We do a little bit of writing through the day, but we try not to make it seem like an assessment. And we do a bit of maths and English assessment as well during the day. The children go out to play, so they have a lovely time mixing and integrating with some of our existing children. And then they have a PE lesson with our director of sport as well. And they stay for lunch, which is always a highlight of the day. So they get to taste our food, and our brilliant caterers are on hand to cater for any need during the 7+ process. And then we make offers based on what we see on the day. But again, as I mentioned at the start, we're not an academically selective school, but we are billed as selective. So we're just making sure we can cater for the needs for every child that we do take in. We do have ad hoc places kind of throughout the school as well. So there's certain year groups where we're not at capacity yet, and they follow more or less the same structure as a 7+ day, but more of an ad hoc process as and when there is demand.
And do most of the children come to the school from the local community, or do you find increasingly people are coming from slightly further away?
So traditionally, it is from the local community. We've got great relationships with a lot of the pre-prep schools that end at year 2. And we've got very strong links with a lot of those schools in the community. So a lot of our children come from schools that end at the end of year 2, so a natural progression from schools that we've got links to. We do get quite a bit of interest from state as well when we get to 7+ as well, but again, they tend to be local schools. With the recent merger with St Dunstan's, I'm sure we'll talk about it later, our catchment area seems to be expanding a little bit, and there's a lot more children from the kind of Catford area now showing interest in Rosemead as well. So I think we are expanding our reach, but it is still quite local at the moment, which helps with that community feel we've got in the school.
Can you tell us a little bit about the values and ethos at Rosemead Prep? And why are these important to your school community? And also if there's a school motto that you feel kind of leads the way within the school community?
Yeah, definitely. So since I took over in February, our identity and who we are is something I've been talking quite a lot about with staff and children and parents, and trying to tease out what their understanding of Rosemead is and what a Rosemead child, what a Rosemead parent actually looks like. So we are currently in the process of rebranding our values system in school, which will all be ready for September to kind of roll out. This is what we call the Roots of Rosemead, and we'll have kind of 2 branches on the Roots of Rosemead, and we'll focus on 5 words which showcase our pastoral care and pastoral aims of the school, and 5 words that encapsulate the academic aims as well. So our pastoral words from September that will be kind of ingrained in planning, teaching and learning around the school, certificates, assemblies, everything are: we will be kind, we are respectful, we are confident, honest and responsible. And that's what you're trying to instill as a Rosemead child in our community as a school. And kind of expanding on that, our academic words and what we're trying to teach the children, how to be learners. We're looking at them to be effective communicators. We want our children to be curious, creators, risk takers and thinkers. We're kind of in the infancy of the Roots of Rosemead, and we're really just working with the parents and children to nail down what the words actually mean before we make sure it's embedded in everything we do next year. All of that links into what our motto is. So our motto is inspiring brilliant futures. And that's what we try and live for. And that's what we're trying to instill in children. So we want them to have inspired brilliant futures. We want them to inspire each other in their brilliant futures. And we want the Roots of Rosemead to be the thing that underpins that overall motto. So you are kind, respectful, confident, all the other words I described, which ultimately all come together in inspiring their brilliant futures.
Sounds very exciting. I can't wait to see the tree. Can you tell us a little bit about the arts, music and drama provision at Rosemead Prep?
As I said, we're not purely an academically focused school. We do very well academically and we get brilliant results in 11+ every year. However, our viewpoint on the whole curriculum is we do that without compromising on the other bits. So we have a brilliant music, art and drama programme at Rosemead. We've got fantastic bespoke art curriculum that's led by our art specialist teacher. She's a secondary qualified art and DT teacher. She's really raising the standards of art through the school. Recently, we've won quite a few competitions, so regional competitions with art. And last year, we won a national 3D sculpture competition with the ISA as well. So art's a very big part of what we do. Similarly, our music programme with our director of music, who's been at the school for a number of years now, we've got a very robust programme and a brilliant team of peripatetic staff. she always says if there's an instrument a child wants to learn in Rosemead, she'll find somebody that can teach it. So there's nothing kind of off limits in our music curriculum as well. We've got brilliant children who are grade 3, 4, 5 by the time they leave us. So it's a big part of what we do. But we like to think we do all that, and our fantastic productions from the drama side, we do all that without compromising on the academics. We try and create a well-rounded, balanced child and curriculum for them.
It's often the trick is managing to fit it all into the day, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
And I understand that you have had some recent sporting achievements. Do you want to tell me about some of what's been happening at Rosemead Prep?
Yes, we've had a really successful year this year. I think one of the key things to mention is when we get parents coming around on a tour at Rosemead, they often forget that we also use Rosendale playing fields, which are a 5-minute walk down the road. So when they see our site, it feels a little bit smaller than some of the other schools on our doorstep, but that helps with our community and family-friendly feel. But we've got quite extensive playing fields, just a 5-minute walk from the school that our children use every afternoon, and before school clubs and after school clubs. And I think having that facility, a short walk that we use constantly, really helps with our sporting prowess and how we've managed to achieve some of the things we've achieved this year. Give you some of the highlights. We are regional cross-country winners. So this year we held cross-country tournament, which we hosted on our playing fields. There are 9 other schools from the local area took part, and we came out as overall winners in that. So we're very proud of hosting the event, also quite pleased with winning it as well. We compete in the ISA national competitions for many sports every year. This was the first year that our all-girls hockey team, we do a mixture of all-girls, all-boys and co-ed competitions. This was the first year ever we managed to get to the ISA national finals for under-11s hockey, which we were delighted with. We've never made it out of a regional competition before. We also came 3rd place nationally in netball in the ISA competition as well. So we were delighted with that, with our under-11s team as well. And again, that was the first time that we've qualified for national competition there. Just last week, we entered into under-11s cricket competition, and we are the regional winners for that. So we're going into national competitions at some point. We've also got coming up in the next few weeks, we've got 6 of our children are off to national finals in Birmingham for athletics. So in our regional competitions, we won 15 medals, 6 gold, 5 silver and 4 bronze across 7 different events. So we've absolutely smashed it this year from a sporting point of view, which we are very proud of.
That really is quite a record board. What's the importance, do you feel, of working and engaging with the local community and charity for your school? And can you perhaps give us some examples of recent community or charity work that Rosemead Prep has done?
I think it's a huge part of any school that is a registered charity. We really embrace the local community, and we try and keep the majority of our charities quite local. We've got a number of charities on the go every academic year. We get our children to choose a charity every year from each year group. So we've usually got about 6 charities on the go at a time throughout the year. But because the children have voted for them and they're coming from the children's interest, it means that there's usually a connection. One of our biggest charities that we support, and last year we raised $2,500 for a charity called Ruby's Fund, whose motto is Live Kindly, Live Loudly. And one of the main reasons our pre-prep in particular supports Ruby's Fund is Ruby used to be a pupil at Rosemead who sadly passed away in 2020. And her parents have then set up this charity. So we constantly campaign for Ruby's Fund. But having that really local community feel in that aspect of we understand the charity and they're part of us, really, I think, drives it home with the children. Lots of charities. We worked with the Rainforest Trust last year and raised about £3,000 for them. The kind of link for the Rainforest Trust was one of the children who's currently in year 5. Their uncle works for it, and they came in and did a rainforest campaign with the school. So it's really trying to find those meaningful moments for the children. So it's not just something abstract when we're doing local community events and working for charities. We give to the Lucian Food Bank every year, but there's a huge number of charities in the local community that we can raise money for and donate to. I think all of that kind of fits in with the Inspiring Brilliant Futures brand and motto as well, that we're not just doing it for us. It's about looking at the community as a wider prospect. But last year, our kind of total amongst all the charities in our 6-year groups was we raised £13,120, which for a school our size, we thought was excellent.
Yeah, a real achievement and shows the dedication as well. Rosemead Prep recently joined with St Dunstan's in a merger. What opportunities and possibilities do you foresee now in your future with St Dunstan's going forwards?
Yeah, I think we are at a really exciting and crucial point in Rosemead's history. So Rosemead have been around for 80 years this year. Rosemead started with a group of Rosemead parents who invested in the school and bought the school building. So it's always been a very community-driven organisation, a community-driven school, and parents have always had a vested interest. I would say the merger with St Dunstan's is probably the most exciting evolution of the school in its 80-year history. So we're at a very interesting point of where we go next. In terms of opportunities with St Dunstan's, a huge number of opportunities with St Dunstan's. We are looking at kind of bigger 5 to 10 year projects. We are now we're part of a bigger organisation. We can look at economies of scale and we can work with St Dunstan's to make things that weren't always possible for Rosemead happen in the future. Kind of more tangible things for the parents. We're currently working on quite a few initiatives to bring the school together. Rosemead are joining forces with St Dunstan's for St Dunstan's Festival, and we're doing some singing with them. We're exploring opportunities for our year 5s and 6s next academic year to use some of the DT labs, because we don't have them on site. Some of the 3D printing things, we've got members of staff who are trained in it. We just need the facility to be able to do it, and St Dunstan's offers us that. There's opportunity for some of our older children to use science labs as well. We're talking about doing our swim galas at St Dunstan's Pool. There's a huge amount of crossover for the children. For the staff, we're working very closely with the head of St Dunstan's Junior School, and we're doing a lot of staff training together from September, and we're pooling resources which can only but benefit both schools. Probably the most interesting bit for parents listening to this would be the change for Rosemead's transition point and transition process into St Dunstan's. Rosemead's branding on 11 Plus has always been and always will be, we will work as hard as we can to get your child into the school that's right for you. And now if that school is, if the right school for you now is St Dunstan's, there's a nicer process than the 11 Plus process for Rosemead children. So we are mirroring from this academic year, so my current year 5s, we are mirroring St Dunstan's Junior School process for entry into the senior school. So my year 5 children, the summer term of year 5, will sit an internal assessment, the same as St Dunstan's Junior School children in year 5 sit their internal assessment, which is a usual kind of battery of assessments we do in the summer term anyway, so there's no change in how we run our curriculum and run our assessment processes at Rosemead. We then take those results, and the parents and children that are interested in pursuing a place at St Dunstan's, which isn't all Rosemead children, we then sit on a panel. My leadership team sit on a panel with St Dunstan's leadership team, and we discuss the children, both from a kind of academic data point of view, but also from a pastoral point of view and what else they can offer. And we decide if they get an offer at the end of year 5 through St Dunstan's, which is a lovely kind of additional point to the merger that Rosemead parents wouldn't have had previously. Traditionally, Rosemead parents would have had to have gone through the 11 Plus process. This is a much softer and a much nicer process for our parents to be involved in and our children.
And it does save them any of the stresses that some of the 11 Plus can bring with it. And then further to this, the topic of artificial intelligence and what it means for the future of teaching is something the magazine's focusing on. We've been to the seminar at Cottesmore and also at the Institute of Education. And it's something that schools are obviously discussing. And I noted that you are, as a school, using Sentry as part of the preparation for the 11 Plus. Can you tell us a little bit more about what this involves?
Yeah, definitely. Just to answer kind of a bit about AI in general before we move on to Sentry. I've always worked with technology in my career, from Dubai and China and then coming back to London. So I've always been quite interested in the direction education's going in. And I've always been a big believer in don't shy away from the changes that are coming, but try and embrace them and see how it works for us as a school or how it doesn't work for us as a school. So we are very much at the forefront of pioneering and trying things out. And I try and instill that in my teachers as well. I want Rosemead to be an exciting place to work, but an exciting place for the children to learn as well. And I think technology really helps that. My ethos on all of that is everything in moderation. And I think as long as we're not solely going down one route and everything has a balance, and that's what we try and do in our curriculum. So the same comes with tech and AI as well. then there's a place for it in education. We don't run the risk of what a lot of the fear from secondary schools is about ChatGPT kind of writing homework and essays and everything for the children. We don't really set homework tasks that allow for that to happen. So we are not worried about that avenue at a primary school level, which I suppose opens up more possibilities for us to experiment with things without the fear that children are going to use it as a crutch. So we are exposing children to different things, but we are teaching them and educating them about what it actually looks like. We made a decision just 18 months ago now to start exploring using AI in the classroom and start exploring using Century Tech as our platform to do that. We have trialed extensively various different models, and we really like how Century works. We use it in a few different ways in our curriculum. What we like about Century is it uses an AI program behind the scenes to really target bespoke individual learning for the children, which means, for example, I was doing a parent tour today and we walked into a maths lesson in year 6 and the teacher was using Century Tech there. We've got one-to-one devices in year 5 and 6, year 4, 5 and 6 next year. So children had their Century Tech, their Chromebooks open, they were on Century Tech. They were doing a lesson on fractions. The teacher had set them a nugget. This is what they're called in Century Tech. For the first 5 minutes, just to kind of ascertain where they were, where the gaps in learning were. And the teacher was getting real-time feedback on what the children were able to do in that kind of pre-teaching bit before the lesson started. And because the teacher's getting that live feedback in the lesson, what it means is the teacher can immediately start to group the children live in the lesson about who needs a little bit of extra teaching, who's ready to move on, who needs a bit of extension. And there's a very fluid approach in our classrooms at the moment, using a kind of AI to help us do that. So in that lesson, the teacher allowed certain children, after that kind of diagnostic assessment at the beginning, to further their learning, and they were pushed on to year 7 content and higher content to kind of stretch them, while the teacher grouped other children that had missed a couple of concepts and maybe need a bit of extra help. Together, closed the Chromebooks. Chromebooks weren't seen again for the rest of the lesson. And it was then very analog, very practical, very hands-on, making sure they understood before the whole lesson kind of flipped. And they went on to do their task. And the ones who were doing the extension on Century Tech with their individual recommended pathway were then brought out, and the teacher moved them on even further. So it's a very immediate, reactive approach to what's happening live in the lesson, rather than a lot of data that comes in from assessments at the end of the lesson and informs your next one. We are trying to use it immediately. So it's quite hard work for the teachers, but they are embracing it and it's going really well. If you are interested in getting more about what we're doing, there are 2 case studies on the Century Tech's website at the moment featuring how we are using it to prepare children for the assessments as well.
On some level, it does save the teachers having to individually go around making notes in the old-fashioned sense, and the data can be kept, I imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so it builds over time. It informs kind of practice and what we need to do, what parents need to target at home, which has been really useful as well.
Just a really final question, coming back to the AI, obviously parents, I think, could be concerned. They could see it, that they don't want their children spending longer than they need to on iPads and everything. But I think that there is also a lot of misconception about exactly how it can be used in classrooms, and particularly in preparatory schools. What are your thoughts on the use of AI and technology in classrooms going forwards? And do you have any concerns?
As I said, I think it's about balance, and I think it's about everything in moderation. At the moment, the way we are using AI to inform teaching and learning and to massively help with teacher workload, targeted assessment, targeted teaching, I'm not concerned about how we're using it. Nobody knows what the future is going to bring. But if we go back 5, 10 years, everybody was panicking that Google was going to mean that nobody thought for themselves. Do you just Google the answer to anything? It's now part of society and part of what we do. You go back further than that, and computers are going to take over the world. And it's opened up new possibilities and new horizons. And I think we're just at the next cusp of seeing what happens next, but a really interesting transition point globally in the world, not just in education. And I think we do need to, as educators and thinking about current practice, we do need to stay on top of our game, and we do need to be thinking about these things. But at a point where we do become concerned about certain things, that's where you pull back and you reevaluate.
Thank you so much for your time, Graeme, and I'm looking forward, hopefully, to coming in and seeing Rosemead Preparatory in the near future.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.